Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all so much for joining us this morning for our candidates forum. This is for District 52. Give yourselves a hand for being here early this morning. You all could be so many different places this morning, but you're choosing to come here for this very, very important candidates debate. I really want to thank all of you. It shows how much the election process is important to all of you. We know from the last election that the numbers were really low, so I'm hoping for better turnout this time around, but it's not expected. I did have a couple of you share with me as you were coming in that you weren't sure what district that you're in, and that's okay, but I want to give you this resource. Go to myinfo.alabamavotes.gov. You can type in your name and your date of birth. It'll pull up your address if you're registered to vote, and it will let you know what district you're in. And it gives you everything on that website. It's linked to the Secretary of State's office. And you can find out who your county commissioner is, who your city councilor is, what state board of education district you live in. Everything's there. So myinfo.alabamavotes.gov. It's so important to know, who are the people representing you where you live. Okay, so let's give our candidates a round of applause for coming. Woodson and Mr. Kelvin Datcher. We did do a ring toss before we started, and Mr. Datcher will get our first question. I'll let you guys know the format just so everybody is on the same page. We're going to have opening statements from our candidates, followed by questions, and we already have questions for myself, the moderator, to ask. Each candidate will have an opportunity to answer the question. If they want to offer a rebuttal, they can. They don't have to, but we'll give them that option. And whatever time we have left, we will open it up for questions from the audience. We are really wanting to make sure that we take audience questions from those who live in District 52, because this debate is for the District 52 residents. So if you have a question and you live in the district, we would love to hear from you. And once we go through all of those people, if there is time left and you're not in the district, but you have a question that is important to District 52, then we will try to fit you in. If not, maybe the candidates will hang around and you can talk to them one-on-one, okay? How's that sound? Okay. All right, and then after we have audience questions, we'll finish up with closing statements and we'll wrap it up and get back to our Saturday. I want to give a special thank you to the Committee to Save Jefferson County, What's Happening Birmingham, and my company, Carmine Communications. We all got together and decided to host this debate. We felt like it was important for the residents to be able to hear from the candidates. So we are about to get started. All right, and so as we get started, I'm going to allow Mr. Datcher to go first to offer his opening statement, followed by Mr. Woodson.
Good morning. How much time do I have?
For your opening statement, 1 minute.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I do want to thank the Committee to Save Jefferson County. They've been in the business of working for our citizens for quite a long time now, and you've seen them evolve as they started to work on a single issue, and you watch them grow to really become a force for information in our community. So really want to hats off to Brother Muhammad and all that whole team, because information is the key to it. Rhonda mentioned 4%, a little triumph, 4% of our folks vote, 4%. We've got to be able to push that forward, and I think my positive message of building a great district is really resonating. I'm so proud of the overwhelming results from just a few weeks ago. As a first-time candidate, you're a little nervous to see your name on the ballot. You don't know what's going to happen. You have those butterflies, but you know that the hard work of door to door, sitting on somebody's porch, having a glass of lemonade, and learning that people, more than anything else, want to be heard. They want to know that folks care about them more than any single issue. They want to know that you got their back. And I'm glad that we got that across. We'll continue to do it every day. I've lost 12 pounds in the last couple months hitting the pavement. My skin tone is darker than any time since I used to run around Big Mama's house down in Hartsville. So being the streets and going door to door. And so it's been very exciting. And I'm very thankful to the residents of District 52 for giving me a shot to talk to them and possibly represent them in Montgomery.
Well, good morning to everyone. I appreciate you coming out, and thank you all for broadcasting and bringing us together. My name is Frank Anthony Woodson. I'm the product of a two-parent household, a family of 9 kids. My parents were Big Mama and Big Daddy also. And I had 12 aunts and uncles that were like parents. I've got 68 cousins that are like brothers and sisters. And in the community where there were kids and they didn't have children, they became our brothers and sisters too. And our family raised them just like they were ours. My father, he left Alabama to go into the military because of the times that we lived in. He didn't want to raise a family in the South. He retired after 24 years and he came back and taught military science at George Washington College to reach boys and girls that had nothing, that had experiencing hopelessness, nothingness. And he sent more than 1,000 of them to careers in the military. My mother, after 24 years, an amazing heart caring for the community, she adopted all the nursing homes in the community, and that was 4 large nursing homes, and to make sure that those folks were loved and cared about. And every holiday, we would be in the nursing homes, walking the halls. Community service is in my blood. My family's been in Alabama since 1838 when William Woodson came from Virginia. He brought his family down here and settled in Selma. During slavery, we have a resilient family. So there's been 11 generations, and the last 3 generations of Woodson have been here in Birmingham. I've lived in Bellevue Heights for the last 26 years. I moved from Shelby County into the city because I care about it.
Thank you so much. Can we give our candidates a round of applause? So what I'll try to do, candidates, is give you like a 10-second warning. Is that enough time? You'd rather have a 30-second?
10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay. So for these questions, you'll have 2 minutes to answer. And then 45 seconds for rebuttal if you choose to, but you don't have to. All right. First question. Since we have the opening statement from Mr. Datcher, we'll start with Mr. Woodson for this question. If elected, what will be your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities will be to go and meet the other people that we caucus with. The legislature acts as a body, not as an individual. And so one of the first things we've got to do is make sure that we build unity with the body that is already down there, to see what the priorities and strategies are that have been set. And then as a caucus, when we come together, we're going to say that these are the priorities. And then I'm going to fight to make sure that the priorities of our community in District 52, that those priorities that impact us the most, from what I'm hearing from the people, that those priorities are safety. And safety comes in many ways. There's a health crisis going on in many of our communities right now. And so when you have abandoned, blighted properties, those are health issues. So we have crime. We have health issues that have to do with public safety and safety for our families and children. And then we have the issue with abandoned, overgrown lots and Section 8 housing. How do we deal with those things? Those are the things that I'm hearing that they're concerned about. Our neighbors staying in their houses, our seniors are saying, I only go out of the house for 1, 2, 3 things, a doctor's appointment, to go shopping, and maybe to go to church or to the gym. It ought not be that way. We ought to have a community where our seniors feel safe and want to sit on the porch and enjoy life. I want to make sure that those issues are translated into policies that can change their life. But also, I want to make sure that my influence changes policy and issues locally. And I will use that office, that seat, and my influence to fight for you not only in Montgomery, but if necessary, go down to City Hall and look the mayor in the eye and say, we've got to do better for our citizens. Talk to the councilors and do the same.
All right, Mr. Datcher, same question.
Yeah, I think my first part is going to be to get some light for that door that's really talking about every time everybody opens it. But, there are a couple of things that we've been talking about throughout the life of this campaign, which has been incredibly exciting. Just 2 days ago, the governor of the state announced a $550 million grant for Mobile to replace about 8 miles of interstate bridge across the Gulf Coast. $550 million. The legislators, the mayors, the folks down there in Mobile have been working on that for more than 10 years. The only reason it happened because they worked together. The city councilors, the county commissioners, the mayors, the state legislators, and the congresspeople. There was a big fight trying to get that money from the state. When they didn't get it from the state, they didn't stop there. They worked with Senator Britt, Senator Tuberville, and Congressman Carl down there to elevate this to the federal level. So one thing that we have to do, that we don't do here, and we're going to just keep it plain, keep it real, I'm from the country, it is what it is. We don't work together. County commissioners, city councilors, mayors, state representatives, state senators have to speak with one voice when we go to Montgomery. So the most important thing is that alignment of our local elected officials so that when you go to Montgomery, the wind is at your back because your people are with you. So when I announced that I have State Senator Roger Switham and the State Senator Linda Coleman Madison supporting me, the Mayor of Fairfield and the Mayor of Birmingham supporting me, City Councils from Birmingham and Fairfield supporting me, the County Commissioner Sheila Tyson supporting me. That's important to me because we have to work together. One person's not going to change anything down there. The Republicans still have a supermajority, but we have to have togetherness and a single voice working together to get it done for our community.
45 seconds. 45 seconds.
Yes, rebuttal.
That's why I got in the race. Because they're not working together. They haven't been working together. When I saw that there was an infrastructure bill almost 4 years ago where he put billions of dollars in, all the other cities around the state, Huntsville, Montgomery, Mobile, Tuscaloosa, Anniston, Gadsden, have infrastructure projects because leadership brought people together. We don't have it in Birmingham. I asked the question why. I went to the state legislature. I asked them why. Why don't we have them? Why don't we have a Birmingham agenda? Their resounding answer was the same. The mayor won't meet with us. He won't come to the table with us. That's the kind, but we as leaders have got to make that happen. That's what I will work for. I won't settle for the way things are.
45 seconds?
Yes, sir.
I'm not pointing fingers. It's nobody's fault that we're not working together, but it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that it happens. So I'm not going to say one person hadn't done this, one person hadn't done that. All of our elected officials that we vote for every single year owe us all to work together.
All right, we'll move on to our next question. We'll start with Mr. Datcher this time. What do you believe are some of the critical issues in District 52 and how do you plan to resolve them?
The challenges of our district are no different than most of the communities that we live in across this state. Public education has to receive the kind of attention and support that it deserves. The governor's building, spending billions of dollars building super prisons. Ain't nobody talking about building super schools. How do we ensure that teachers get the raises they deserve, active and retired teachers? How do we cut classroom sizes in half so our students can get the kind of one-on-one attention that they need? How do we dedicate money to art and music and field trips so our kids can see something different so they can be something different? How do we ensure that every Alabamian has access to health care? Right now, we know that we're one of only 10 states that has not accepted the Affordable Care Act. How do we ensure that our folks can go to the doctor so that they become productive citizens in our community? And how do we also ensure that small, black-owned, woman-owned businesses have the resources they need to deliver jobs and wealth back into our community? We don't have to work, we don't have to beg other folks to bring anything to our community. We got everything we need. We just need the support of our legislators to ensure that those resources are available so that our folks can chase the American dream right here in District 52.
Next question.
Yes, sir. What do you believe are the critical issues within District 52, and how do you plan to resolve them?
Let's start our district, let's start in inner urban heights around Fairfield. And I asked the people that live there, what are your concerns? They showed me alleyways that were overgrown, completely closed. Those are streets, by the way. You have to vacate it, not to care for them. And the city of Fairfield has not cared for those alleyways in a long, long time. Overgrown overgrown sidewalks right away. They're overgrown. And I asked them, what are they concerned about? They're concerned about losing their community. Here's what they don't understand, is that when property values drop, that's less money that comes into the city. So when you let the lots and those things overgrow, then that means the property values drop and the property taxes drop. That means less money for potholes, less money for cutting grass, less money for street sanitation, fire, police. All of that happens when you don't maintain the yards, keeping up the infrastructure in the alleyways for utilities. That's a concern for them. How did it happen? They unlocked the lockbox. And when they did that, they took the property taxes, the city council, a previous one, let me say that, they opened it up and they did a bond issue, and the bond companies get most of the money out of the lockbox, and there's not the resources that are there. Community development. Southwest Birmingham, 5 Points West, same, the major issues there, blighted properties and the like. But also, seniors being able to retire and die peacefully in their homes without them being overgrown, or abandoned houses being crack houses or whatever houses. Those are the concerns. Economic inclusion, the last move of the civil rights movement. Birmingham, Alabama, out of 53 municipalities, has the lowest participation of black businesses in the whole country. Of the 53 MSAs, we are number 53.
10 seconds.
We knew that 8 years ago, we knew that 4 years ago, we know that today, and guess what? It'd be the same tomorrow if you exclude all the people from outside, black folks that are getting contracts. We're still in the same position.
Your rebuttals?
There are 2 local land banks in the entire state of Alabama, and both of them are in District 52. The city of Birmingham and the city of Fairfield. The only 2 in the entire state. How do we go to Montgomery and ensure that we dedicate a fund that allows and empowers those land bank authorities to go after the tens of thousands of blighted properties in our communities? This is what we have to understand. The city's land banks not only have to pay for the legal process of clearing the title, more importantly, well, as importantly, they have to pay for a guardian ad litem, which represents the interest of the actual property. So the land bank authorities are having to pay both sides, plus pursue title insurance, and it prevents us from having to go get the number of properties that we need to do it. Our state legislature can provide those funds to invest directly into our communities to reestablish and renew our neighborhoods.
Rebuttal.
Okay, go ahead.
I was voted vice chairman of the state of Alabama Land Bank Authority when it was created. After the red wave wiped Roger Bedford out, I then became the state chairman for 5 years of the Alabama Land Bank Authority. The way Birmingham is using the Land Bank Authority is not the way that it works. They're trying to make money off of it. And the only people that get paid off of it are the attorneys and the lawyers. Guess what? Give me the property, I'll clear the title of it, waive all of the fines, all of the penalties, put the properties back in place so that what happens? Property taxes go up. And that means more money for schools, more money for potholes. Get the blighted properties, abandoned lots off of the deal. They're doing it wrong, and the only people getting rich are the folks that are in that circle,
Yep,
FBI, friends,
Yep.
brothers, and in-laws.
yep, yep.
All right, thank you so much.
Amen. Amen.
We touched some folks there. Okay, so when you're running for office, you're in essence applying for a job. So this next question, we'll start with Mr. Woodson. For those who are not aware, explain to them what your job is that you're applying for those in the room who are not sure what you would be doing, and why are you the best person for that job?
As a legislator, you have two major things that you do. You pass the education budget and you pass the general budget. Those are the two most important things that we do. And in that budget, to make sure that our priorities, we fight to make sure that our priorities with education, your priorities in District 52 and beyond, that those priorities are in that budget the best that we can. But we don't stop there. We have to use our influence. And influence is very important. I've never stopped working with the leadership of Montgomery, with the governor, with the head of the House, with the head of the Senate, with the agencies. I've worked with those 30+ agencies and boards continuously to bring resources into our community. Right now, there's a bypass that's over the Western District of Birmingham and Fairfield. And our kids think that that's just a part of the skyline. And you can beg and you can cry to the Republicans and all of that for them to please drop us something. But the people that build the bypass aren't going to build off-ramps. They're not going to build on-ramps. We've got to build them. I've built the 9th largest nonprofit in Jefferson County quietly, ahead of the YMCA and the like. I run a multi-million-dollar nonprofit, $25 million. And I built several multi-million other ones to help small businesses because of this reason right here. Because Blueprint Birmingham, the corporate community, said, the heck with small businesses, and in a long term of mayoral administrations has done the same thing with small businesses. Martin Luther King Jr. died because of economic inclusion for black families and black businesses. I can be unapologetic about this. Why won't the mayors that came before me implement the diversity studies? They won't do it because they're not allowed.
That's what you're at for too.
Mr. Datcher.
First and foremost, the job is to listen and to learn from the residents of the district. They want that. Representative Rogers served ably for 43 years in our district, and now we've been knocking on doors, hundreds if not thousands of doors in this district, and folks just want somebody to listen to them and then carry their concerns to Montgomery. The $3.3 billion general fund budget, the $9.6 billion education trust fund budget that's passed every year by the state doesn't really include our priorities because we are doing it by ourselves now. And I know that there are great members of the delegation currently, but you can't do it by yourself. And that's what we're still trying to do. We're still trying to do it by ourselves. We're not working together. Folks always want to blame so-and-so won't meet with me. It's enough. Look, guys, it's time out for this. Either we're going to save our children by educating them and exposing them to new things. Listen, we can't police ourselves out of the public safety challenges we have in our community. We ain't locking all our children up. That's what they want us to do. These for-profit prisons, they're looking for bodies, and they want our bodies down there. So it's up to us to educate our children. It's up to us to work together. You know, I kind of feel some kind of way about this election, because it is indeed a job interview. And I got the best damn references that you can call of anybody around, because I have done this work for a very long time, and I look forward to doing it moving forward into the future.
My resume, as far as interviewing for this job, is unmatchable by anybody in the state of Alabama. I've been in the community. During the pandemic, we fed over 1 million families. The last year of the pandemic, the federal government, the presidential administration, and special advisor over that program gave us all the food for Alabama. And I fed black communities, and the food went out to white communities as well. Listen, we have to care enough about our people to make a difference. Our grassroots nonprofit sector is in the hole.
10 seconds.
But these nonprofits that the mayor and this administration that is currently in, they have over $10 million that we could have been helping families directly. We have been bypassed, and things have to change.
Things only change when we work together. Things only get better when we bring our folks together. The best and the brightest, bringing the best and brightest ideas to each other. I mean, we gotta get out of the finger pointing, y'all. We gotta get out of the blame game. It ain't helping us, but what it does is it allows those outside of our community to divide and conquer us. So one group's over here, one group's over here, and nothing's getting done for Birmingham. Huntsville and Mobile's delegations, they bring home the bacon every single year because they work together. Now, I'm sure that there are 10 issues down there that they may have. They may only agree on 2 of them, but those are 2 that they bring to Montgomery. They're taking that money back home. That $550 million, what could that do in Birmingham if we work together?
Next question. It seems to come up every election cycle. What can we do to improve our educational system? So we would like to hear your thoughts on what do you think the problems are and what will you do to address those problems?
Here's what I know about our education system. It's not just a thought. I've worked quietly behind the scenes with Birmingham City Schools for years. I wrote their core values. I wrote their mission statement. I trained their leaders, academic leaders, in leadership and change management. I know Birmingham City Schools. Our problem is that it's not a community effort. Our problem is, just like with crime and everything else, we have 1,200 churches in Birmingham, and those are community-based organizations that need to be helping strengthen families. Many of the problems in education happen away from home, so that's why it's hard to get off the failing list. If we have nonprofits, if we invigorate the nonprofit sector to work and strengthen the families, to put a circle of intervention around them, then what happens, the family gets stronger. The school performances go up. If we clean up the neighborhoods and we remove the blighted properties, if there's one house on your block that is blighted, everybody's property value drops by $8,400. That's 24 houses on my block in Inslee. If it's within 2 blocks, it's 2,400. That means as the property values drop, less money for schools, less money for families. And then the next thing is, with the nonprofit sector comes around and alongside of families to strengthen them. And that helps with education. So the funding is there. The parents' involvement in healthy homes, that's super important. Those are the things that they need. I'm in the schools, principal tells me, now look, we don't need more free uniforms, we don't need more of this right here. We need help in strengthening the families. That's what they say. You want to help get involved with the family, so we got involved. And we'll talk about how we did that later.
It ain't rocket science, Ron. It ain't. Everybody talks about throwing money at problems as if, you know, we should be investing in our children. And we've fallen for that tagline for way too long. Alabama should have the highest paid teachers in America. Retired teachers who have served this state for decades should have the highest retirement in America. Our per student spending should be the highest in America. And why do I say that? Because we can raise hundreds of billions of dollars to build whatever Nick Saban needs to be #1 in football. Right? Why in the world can't we commit the same kind of resources and the same kind of attention to our kids that we do to Alabama football? We can be no nonsense and say we will not settle for less. Fire the coach in Alabama, you don't win, hire another one. Make sure they have the resources to get it done. Bring in talented assistant coaches to get it done. We know what we got to do. Recruit great teachers. Support them. Get them the resources. Make sure our kids have art. Make sure that my daughter right now, somebody just saw her speak at church one day when she was 6. Now she's been in more than a dozen plays at Red Mountain Theater and Homewood Theater. And she just lights up when she's on stage. Every child deserves that opportunity to find what they're great at, what excites them about the life, so they can pursue an opportunity, a career, and things that they've never seen before. This is not, guys, we overcomplicate stuff sometimes. Get a great teacher in that room. Get involved parents in that room. Get resources in that room, and you will see great students all across this district and across Alabama.
45 seconds.
Well,
Look, I'm a business person. I work with Fortune 50 country. We'll never have the highest paid teachers in America. We'll never have the highest paid anything in America because the cost of living is different. And so if you put your eye on the money, it's not gonna add up. It takes less to live in Alabama. And that's just the truth. I'm not gonna hit you with punchline. This is just good business. Over $300 million, $400 million if you throw in it, $500 million came in through the pandemic, and it did not enrich our community or the black community or black businesses or women businesses or small businesses or veteran businesses. It didn't do anything. The problem in education is leadership. I'm not going to imply that the problem is we need better teachers or we need to exchange the teachers. We need exceptional leadership. Go to Central Park and walk the hall and see what they did when they changed leadership. It's extraordinary.
Sure, we have the highest paid football coach in America and the best football program in America. Well, maybe your team ain't winning, but other folks did. At the end of the day, Alabama football gets it done. They have the highest paid coach, and he produced. Tell me why we can't have the highest paid teachers. It's a choice we're making. I mean, listen, it's just a choice. We decide where we want our money to go and what we want to spend it on. It's just a choice. It's not, we make things so complicated. We can't do this. Make a different choice, and you'll make it, you have a different life.
if only we could solve all things with football. So it's no secret that we're in a red state, and you have to be able to work with others to get things accomplished. So this question starts with Mr. Datcher first. How will you walk across the aisle to work with others in order to help people within District 52?
Well, I mean, you know, the numbers are the numbers. Out of 105 state legislators, 77 are Republican. On the Senate side, 28 out of 35 are Republicans. 6 members of the congressional delegation of the 7 are Republicans. Both U.S. senators are Republicans. 9 members of the state Supreme Court, plus the governor, lieutenant governor, and the treasurer are all Republicans. If somebody tells you you're not going to work with Republicans, then you need to tell folks to go somewhere else and don't send them to Montgomery, because it's ridiculous. What I've seen and what I've learned is that we actually have much more in common than we do in difference as people. The great challenge that we have in our communities, those challenges are not limited by municipal boundaries. Things may be bad in one city, and the neighbor city can build a wall Trump style to keep it out. We have to let folks understand our neighbors in other districts, our neighbors across the county, our neighbors across the state. The challenges here will be the challenges where you are if we don't address them together. Quite frankly, it's very easy. When we talk about education, the vast majority of the legislators went to public school. I went to Woodson High School. Ms. Hines was my first teacher. I think she was 107 then. And I remember she put me with a racetrack one day, and I had to go pray in front of the blackboard. Now I know we can't do that anymore, but when I tell that story, there are other Republican legislators who think about the same thing. They think about how they grew up and how they were raised. And it begins to let us begin a dialogue and a conversation about making sure we have those teachers who love us in the classroom. So it's just finding the commonalities that you have with other folks across the aisle, across the state. I'll say this, as a lifelong Democrat, I'm damn proud to be a Democrat. I believe in our principles and our values, and I will never walk away from them. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm proud of that. But I will make sure that I find my values that align with theirs in order to get things done for our community.
Can you read the question?
Yes, sir. How will you walk across the aisle to work with others in order to help citizens in District 52?
I'll tell you this, character matters. I was on the ADC State Executive Committee. I was on the Alabama Democratic State Executive Committee, the ADC Jefferson County Executive Committee, the Jefferson County Democratic Executive Committee, and helped build the Birmingham chapter of the ADC. I was a member of the NAACP at that time, the SCLC at that time, and I was able to go down to Montgomery and work with those folks to be appointed by a Republican governor to oversee community service in the Governor's Relief Fund during the 2011 tornado disasters. I didn't go to work with Republicans. I went there as a man who's accepting responsibility for problems that I don't create because my community was in need. It was my character and my work ethic that opened the door for me, and I've been walking those halls ever since. I've gone down there to work with the state insurance agency, and you say why? Because they got millions of dollars and they're putting it out into their community. So I had to go down there and learn what the policy was when they created the Alabama Resiliency Council. I took 4 other black organizations from Birmingham in there to make sure that we figure out how to build the off-ramps into our community. I'm not going to have to learn how to walk and work with Republicans. I already know how to work with people. When I was the chairman of the Land Bank Authority, I was nominated by a Republican, the head of banking for the state of Alabama. And it was seconded by the guy that was over the Alabama Housing Finance Corporation. I understand how to work with people. I did what Martin Luther King Jr. said. I appealed to their spiritual consciousness, the sense of righteousness that is bigger than Republican and Democrat. And I've got results. And I've brought more than $300 million to our communities, documented. That's the way you do it, working with people.
Yeah, first thing, we can't work with nobody else until we learn how to work with ourselves. And I've said that over and over again, and it's just the most important thing that I can think of. The 9 members of the Birmingham delegation, and over 18 members of the Jefferson County delegation. If we ain't together before we leave here, how are we going to be together when we get there? We can't work with nobody else if we can't work with ourselves. And it's not about pointing fingers and assigning blame. We can't do that anymore. We have to swallow our egos and just sit down across the table, go over to Lena's and have a lunch, and just figure it out. Like, we got to work together. And we ain't going to agree on everything. That ain't never happened. Hell, me and my wife disagreed on 10 things this morning before we got to breakfast. So, but we still together and dropping our kids off to make sure we get to the church cleanup at Sardis today. So at the end of the day, we have to be together here, together, before we can work with anybody else.
Yes.
I'm a realist. Kumbaya is a beautiful song, but everybody doesn't sing it. All right? During the pandemic, we had the commissioner in District 1 who said, "Hey Frank, here's $10,000. Will you feed my seniors?" Absolutely. Right? Before I got the check cut, folks called me from the county and said, "I hear you're getting money." And then they said, "Well, we need to feed the homeless for 3 months. How many meals a day? Da 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 da." Okay, I went and raised the money to do that.
10 seconds.
After that, the other county commissioner said, "I'm not going to work with you because you work with that one." Y'all, look, sometimes you just need to replace employees and move on.
All right. We have a few more questions, and then we're opening up questions to the audience, and we're taking questions from District 52 residents first. But I'll wrap up these next couple of questions, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. Next question, walk us through, in your words, getting a bill passed, submitted, then passed, and if elected, what will be your first bill that you hope to submit? We'll start with Mr. Woodson.
We go back to the table. So this is how you work in a cooperative way. I don't run down there with my bill in my hand and say, "This is what we're going to do." I want to meet with my team. We do a thing called caucusing. A legislator has no individual power by themselves. It's only when they assemble that they have power. So in the street, a council person, whatever, they have no authority, period. It's only when they act as a cohesive unit. See, I understand that. It's something that these folks that we have in office now don't understand, which is why we have a do-nothing kind of situation when it comes to real money coming into the Birmingham region. I'm going to go in caucus with them, and I'm going to listen to them and listen to their priorities. And I'm going to make sure that I have my priorities, and I'm going to make sure that I can get a bill together that they will support. And then what I'm going to do, when I've done that, I'm going to look at the sensibility of the bill, and me and those that have relationships across the aisle in my caucus, we are going to recruit others to get the number to make it happen. I told you before, legislators aren't sitting down in the dark crevices writing bills. You have technical writers that do that. How do I know that? My daughter's a technical writer for the state of Kentucky. She heads the most powerful Senate committee. All right? She writes it, researches it, makes sure that it lines up. They send it to the legislative office. It comes back. But it doesn't pass unless you have a history of working well with people. I do. Other folks in this region do not. So we have a do-nothing financial stream, no off-ramps into our community.
Mr. Datcher?
So that, there's a technical process, and then there's kind of what really happens, right? Getting the bill written, working with the LSA, making sure that it's in the right format, that it meets all the legalities of it, dropping it in a hopper, get it assigned to committee, working with the rules chairman, trying to get that on the agenda, maybe talking to the, that's the technical part of it. That ain't how it happens. They have to have the right ideas and the right conversations before anything goes on the paper. I love the Bible. I love it. If we thought about the Bible as a bill, the Bible has to come to life. Our bills have to come to life. It has to be about our own stories. I was raised by a single mama who, when she got divorced, we moved from the trailer to Big Mama's house next door, 2 bedrooms. Moved from there to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath public housing unit where my mama said, the first thing, don't scuff up the walls, don't mess with the floors. Some of the family's gonna need this someday. In a couple years, every other week she would buy towels, she'd buy a toast oven and put it in the closet. We didn't know that she was preparing for the next phase of our lives. And that just in a few years, we were standing in the foundation of what is now our home house on Sundays when she cooked dinner. And she put 5 kids through college. And I tell that story because there were public policy decisions made along the way, ideas, the principles of the Bible that came to life that made it possible for me to live my dream. And being here, serving my folks is my dream. Somebody had to decide that public housing was a priority and put it in a bill and set some money aside. Somebody had to decide that an FHA loan for a family to build a house was a priority and put that money aside. Someone had to say that Pell Grants were important, student loans were important, so the kids, my tuition is more than my mama made in a year, could find a way to go to college and live a different life than my father who spent 30 years in prison. Someone helped me along the way. And that's what we need to be doing. That's what a bill is, helping somebody along the way. I just saw a family at More Than Conquerors, a mom with 5 kids that they prayed for. And I thought one thing, when I thought about what somebody did for my mom, how could I make it just a little bit easier for her?
I don't have a trauma story, but I do say this. My daddy was crazy, and my mama wasn't far behind. And they whip your butt and then pray for you. Listen, y'all. This country is so fragmented. The Republican bills for let everybody carry a gun, all the Republican states have it just about. Same thing with the rejection of Medicaid expansion and the like, the same thing. We've got to learn how to study policy and figure out how we can get done what we need to get done. My daughter flies all over the country to figure out what legislation is coming next, and what's coming next, and what's coming next. So we got to be prepared before the legislation even hits. Which means that you got to be connected, and you got to understand policy, and you got to understand how to get that information. I understand policy, and I understand how to make it work and build bridges. and on-ramps for you and your family.
Sure. I mean, there's one thing I learned, because my wife and I sometimes argue when we're going places. She want to go one way and I want to go to another. But the key is, can we get to the same place? Right now, you're hearing rumblings in Montgomery for the first time ever about accepting the Affordable Care Act. For Democrats like me, I believe that it is a moral imperative, that it is the right thing to do to make sure that somebody has insurance. For Republicans who are focused on money, they have to think about, if we have insurance, then our workers are going to be more healthy, and then we're going to make more money at the other end. So I believe in the spiritual side, they believe in the financial side, but it doesn't matter what we believe on the journey. It matters that we got to the same place, and we find a way to embrace and expand health care access here in Alabama.
Okay, 2 more questions, and then we will turn it over to our audience. In vitro fertilization has been a hot button topic, not just here in Alabama, but across the country. What are your thoughts on IVF should a bill come across your desk if you are elected? We'll start with Mr. Datcher.
We know that the state Supreme Court in this state embarrassed our nation by banning in vitro fertilization. For families, parents seeking to have children, to expand their family, parents who want another son or another daughter, and maybe something happened to the mom, something happened to the dad, biologically, physically, health-wise, that they couldn't do it without the help of in vitro fertilization. Everything that we do has to be about what's best for families. It has to be. So why would I stand in the way of a mom and a dad who want to have a Zach or Zoe like I have? Now don't get me wrong, Zach and Zoe get on my nerves a lot of days, but it is the greatest blessing of my life to be a daddy. Y'all know what it's like to open the door in the afternoon? Everything's been bad all day, and they don't care. They don't care how hard you don't work. They don't care that your boss is yelling at you. Daddy, let me tell you what happened in school today. Daddy, do you know that lunch wasn't good today? Daddy, Biscuit has eaten up my homework. It is the greatest thrill of my life to be somebody's father, because I didn't have one. And I would do everything possible to ensure that families can continue to grow in Alabama and to give afforded the opportunity to represent 50
Imagine having a superpower, being able to fly, being able to pick up bills, but never be able to use it. Having a child is the greatest superpower that a woman has. It's the greatest superpower that a couple has, to make a replica of yourself. That you can make a little mini-me that looks like you. I looked at this list right here. In 1850, Henry was born to William, and then Boykin in 1872, and then Henry in 1908, and then Richard in 1933, and then Frank in 1961, and then Jeremy in 1987, and then Josh, my grandson, in 2008. It's the most beautiful thing in the world to have the opportunity to have your family line extended, and we work every generation to make it great. They're going to pass these laws again, y'all. There is a Republican policy kit. They're going to pull out the kit. The folks that get it don't read very well, they don't study very well, and they're going to pass the kit. These zealots that are over to this side are going to push for everything. If they could ban you, just your thought from having an abortion or from doing whatever, they would do it. And somebody within our caucus, but in their caucus, has to be made aware of how to adapt that policy so that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
10 seconds.
We got to understand policy, and we got to understand the influence we have. They know it's wrong, but they don't know how to fight it. We got to help them fight and let them get the credit for it. It's doable.
I want to say something that I hope more of our elected officials will say to each other. And I agree with you 100%.
the audience, crime obviously is a huge concern in many of our communities. So I want to ask the candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Datcher first. How will you work within District 52 to lower crime, make our communities safer, and then also at the same time find ways to increase economic development opportunities?
Well, you just said it right there, Rhonda. We're not, you know, again, we gotta make the choice. Do we wanna just decide that our kids are bad and lock them all up? Do we wanna work with our children? We wanna save our children, give them opportunities? I mean, you know, it's funny, like when you go to church, Tiffany, everybody been a saint all their life. Ain't nobody committed a sin. You get around. So when people come in, when people come in who are looking to change their lives, we too often look down on them. Our children need us, y'all, in ways that are well beyond what a legislator can do in office. But it's not. But it is exactly what a leader can do in our community. We know that, you know, when my brother passed away, February 26th of this year, we were out in California and we brought him home and we had his funeral, and I called my boss and said, I'm gonna take a little time off. My son was going on a field trip for 4 days to Dolphin Island for school. And Dolphin Island Sea Lab, I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's right there on the Mobile Bay. And so I drove down and joined them. And for 4 days, we were on the boats in the port. We were in the marsh getting muddy. We were dissecting things. Last night when I got home, my son was watching a YouTube video about marine biology. How do we help our children chase their dreams? Explore what excites them. We cannot just be about prisons and police. We can provide resources because look, some folk got to go to jail, okay? Y'all know it, I know it. Some folk got to go to jail. But the vast majority of children have to be saved and embraced in our schools, in our libraries, in our parks and rec facilities. I didn't have a dad, like I said, but my coach, my Sunday school teacher, I had fathers. Yeah. They raised me. They made me a man. Yeah. And I think that we can all do that by embracing our children. But it's the mindset. Do we want to lock our kids up, or do we want to let them be free and be great?
I've been to the drive-in church where everybody is a saint. And I've been to the holiness church where everybody is a sinner. But I've come to the altar and I've met a God that reminds us that nobody is as good as they think they are. And nobody is as bad as others think that they are as well. That all of us are in need of a Savior, period. And that's the level ground in which I talk to everybody. I don't care what shirt you have on. I'm going to give you respect. And I'm going to give you honor as a sister, as an elder. So what? He likes his UAT team better than I like my Auburn team. I got it.
Now you're making assumptions.
But listen to this. We have a real problem with crime, but crime is a byproduct. We said over and over again that we don't need to point fingers. My Bible tells me you need to mark people. See, here's the deal. When we have somebody that will step up and accept responsibility, then you don't have to point fingers. But when it comes to crime, we don't have a problem pointing our fingers at single mothers. Those mothers, them females, right? This is what they got to do with the kids. But it's always been family. Not the mother, not them females, not that. It's been the family. The family breaks down. And our kids are out there in the community. My daddy taught me an important lesson when me and my brother were borrowing some construction materials from a work site. And the detective showed up. And when he showed up, he said, "Can I see the man of the house?" Now, my daddy didn't say my boys did it. My daddy said, I didn't cause the problem, but I'm responsible for the solution. We need leaders that are willing to be responsible for the solution. I'm willing to be responsible for the solution to crime.
Hello?
It's about all of us, y'all. Listen, Birmingham and Fairfield share a border. Birmingham, Midfield share a border. It's just a street. Birmingham, Mount Brook share a border. It's just a street. A thief don't become a priest because he walked across the street. What I'm saying is that there are no, just because you are here and you're there, doesn't make you any of a better person. It behooves the leaders of Mount Brook and the leaders of Midfield and Fairfield and Bessemer and Birmingham to all work together so that we can come up with these common solutions together, because that's the only way it's going to work, y'all. I mean, y'all know this. Crime moves when it gets some attention. You commit a crime over here, police come over there, what, does crime go away? End? No, it just moves somewhere else. We just got to have those conversations with our police chiefs, with our leaders, with our pastors, all across the community. And we right out here, we know Church of Highland don't have the best name around here, y'all. But what are they doing right now? Serving.
Yes. During the pandemic, the state treasurer called me, and he said hundreds of millions are going to come down, and here is the policy for how you draw it down for your community. I wish talking alone was enough. I went to the mayor's administration and said, this is coming down. Let's build the capacity for black people to feed themselves. He asked me, did I know the white guy that runs Christian Service Mission? I used to be chairman of that board, and I never heard back. I went to our county commissioners, did the same thing. All they talked about was the election coming up. Now listen, if I had stopped and waited till everybody got, then I wouldn't have fed Alabama. We fed over 50 million pounds of food, y'all, valued at $1.60 a pound. We would have had more food in here, and we would have been strengthened if the county commissioners had have stayed out of it. Then the people that distributed could have gotten paid. Now listen. We've got to come up with real solutions, but first it starts with accepting responsibility. This is my problem. This is our solution to be made, and this is our time. Let's make it happen, y'all.
All right. We're now turning over to the audience. Yes. We're turning over to the audience portion of our candidates debate. I would like to hear from the residents from District 52. If you would stand up, the candidates would like to know your address. So please say your name and address. Or street. If you don't want to give the exact address or street, and then ask your question.
Good morning.
You can give your address, but I'm going to do it later today.
No, you won't.
I'm not gonna have my tires slashed.
That's right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We have two wonderful candidates. And one person can be paid. I'm here to represent West End. Been in the community for a minute, and I'm disgusted. I'm doing the best that I can in that West End area. It's really a shame that we as a city says putting people first. During the COVID epidemic, Alabama, Birmingham received millions of dollars, and I haven't seen not $1 in West End. When you enter West End, coming up Denison Avenue, at the traffic light at More Than Conquers, there's not even a sign that says, welcome to West End, Arlington, blah, 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 blah. When you call people to come to your house to do any kind of maintenance, they say, what division or subdivision that you live in, blah, blah, blah. I don't see that, I'm right here, blah, blah, blah. That's an embarrassment to me. I'm a mother, I'm a single mother. Then on top of that, I've been to plenty of meetings. I spoke to the mayor, I spoke to the city council, I spoke to my district person. Coming here this morning, there's a sign that says, we're having food, come and get your fruits and vegetables at Memorial Park. Where's the grocery store?
10 seconds.
Where's the grocery stores? I would like to see, and I would like to work with whoever wants me to work with them once you get elected as a roundtable committee, so that we as the people can give input, because I'm tired of hearing people giving input, but I don't see nothing that's been done. I'm speaking for the entire community, because before we moved over there was not an elderly person, special needs, disabled children playing and walking in the community. Since we moved over there, doing the best we can to keep it up, we see a little bit of that. We even see children over there. But we need to get people over there to teach the other people, like for instance, people call them Mexicans, Hispanic, but they're human beings, how to live, to teach people. You gotta teach people. I've worked in education. You gotta teach people. If you haven't been taught, you gotta be taught. So I hope whoever gets that position, I pray and hope that you don't have a private agenda. Whoever sent you, whoever's supporting you, make sure you don't have a private agenda. And if you have a private agenda, make sure you put in our neighborhoods what we need while you steal.
Okay, thank you so much. Would you guys like to respond?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the job for the city. Respond to a statement.
So you're talking, so when you said a traffic light, you're driving right by my house. I live right there in West End, along Denison, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But it all comes back to what we just talked about. How do we leverage all of the resources beyond just a state legislator? Because really, they have the ability to bring people together in a room, but they don't have a vote on what happens in the city proper, right? So you got to bring folks together. And I think that not just this position, but all of us can begin to do that. Let me just applaud you on, one, being here, saying what you said and doing what you're doing in the community. Because no matter who, the mayor or the county commissioner or the city council, no community is any better than the neighbors that live in it. And so when we have somebody like you who was a model for others to see and to follow, that's the most important thing that we can have in our community. So thank you for that. But secondly, if elected, the job will be to bring those folk together, to work with the mayor, to work with the county commissioners, to leverage whatever dollars that are available at the federal and the state level to bring the community to our communities. I'm proud that I led the choice grant for $50 million for Smithfield. It's going to change that community forever. More than 1,000 new units of affordable housing, 300 new homeowners. We're going to tear down and rebuild Ealerton into something that was not built in 1938, but is there for our folks in 2028 and beyond.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do for you.
Thank you. Mr. Woodson?
Ma'am, what's your name?
Community.
Community?
In quotations, community. I say community.
Well, if you're in the community, I'm gonna call you neighbor.
Thank you.
I'm a neighbor. We got problems that we gotta have solutions with. And you really can't wait till I get elected or whether you get somebody that gives a doggone about us to get elected. We gotta find solutions now. I accept responsibility for the things you're saying. Within a mile of where you are and you're talking about, I've put resources together. Stay still for me so I can look at her while I talk, brother. Within a mile of where you're talking about, I bought a 35,000 square foot building right there on 17th Way, right across the track. And creating a partnership between the unions and junior colleges for rapid training and certification for our kids. For our community that needs wheelchair ramps and the like, we're putting wheelchairs out of that building. We're putting those in the community to every senior that has the need.
10 seconds.
I'm sorry, this guy keeps moving his head back and forth. Right? Listen, we gotta find solutions. Yeah, that's the city's problem. Oh, that's the county's problem. Oh, that's the state's problem. That's my problem because you are my neighbor and it matters to you and there are others like you. I'm a solutionist. I'm going to find whatever solution that we need by bringing people together. That's the way we solve those issues.
Awesome. All right, I know there's some people that may not want to give out their address, so if you want to say your community or your neighborhood, that's fine. You have 30 seconds for your question. Next person.
My name is Christopher Range. I'm actually the son of this community, veteran, and also world traveler. We spoke about the land bank, and we understand that what slavery actually is economic disopportunity. Okay? In order for those people who have the power to be empowered, how will you guys be able to open up the land bank so people have the ability to bid in states like Michigan, New York, California, where actual citizens like yourself and myself can literally go on the website and bid versus going through a contractual process that may delineate them based on certain economic or financial discretion. When you have a generation like myself who wants to come back home and rebuild, how will you guys open those floodgates so that we'll have those opportunities to keep our families safe?
I'll start this time.
Okay.
We got to make sure that first we go read the policy of the Land Bank Authority. So go back to the state policy. That's everything. Policy, process, procedure. You're not supposed to be able, when we designed it, you weren't supposed to be able to turn Birmingham into a land trust in the sense of holding the properties. They were only supposed to be put out for redevelopment, and nonprofit developers were supposed to be given priority. They turned it into something else now, to where the dollars that the city was using to cut your abandoned and vacant lots, they're saying we only cut city properties now. Those are private properties, so we can't cut those anymore. So they'll come in and cut the ones that they quote unquote own, but they will leave yours uncut. We got to make sure that we hold them accountable to the policy and be willing to lose a friend because you challenge them to do their doggone job.
10 seconds.
I don't have a problem. I love our mayor. If he calls me at 3 a.m., I'm going. But sometimes I disagree with the way that he conducts his policy. And so it's hard. I'm just going to say it's hard to argue with folks if you're afraid to go to them and say, you're wrong.
Mr. Datcher.
The Land Bank Authority is there for properties that are at least 3 years tax delinquent. That means folks have been paying taxes on them in 3 years. There are more than 25,000 of those properties in the city of Birmingham. But that's not the real story. Each of those 25,000 properties used to be somebody's home. Somebody's daddy worked in the mine, somebody's mama, like my grandmama, cleaned white folks' houses in Mountain Brook and in Cahaba Heights. And they saved and they did everything, put everything they had into buying and building that house. But something happened along the way that the next generation, didn't pay the taxes. Maybe folks' fault, whatever. But we are missing the fact that millions of dollars in black generational wealth has been thrown to the side because we are not taking care of Big Mama's house like we're supposed to do. We are failing ourselves first and foremost. So while we're talking about cleaning up the lots, that's one thing, but we're losing a house that I could then leave to my daughter.
5 seconds.
That she'd have something to build on, to live in, to start her own family.
Next question from the audience.
Yes, thank you. I didn't know what to expect when I came out earlier today, but I want to say this has been damn good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the question I have to ask, on Wednesday, I went to Montgomery, Alabama, along with the National Black Real Estate Brokers to intervene in a lawsuit. The lawsuit is where there's a conservative white group and a white female lawyer that has filed a lawsuit to take black people off of boards and agencies. They're starting with the appraisal board first, and they're going to remove them off of the appraisal board, and then that will be a domino effect where African Americans and people who look like you and I will not be sitting on state boards. So it went before the federal judge. Of course, our governor, she's being sued, and the state of Alabama is being sued. So all of their lawyers spoke. What I want to know from you, if you're fortunate enough to get to Montgomery, what would you do to help keep us in place and representation across all state boards in the state of Alabama? Thank you.
It's an essential question because you mentioned the appraisal board. I'm going to tell you why that one specifically speaks to me. 95% of the appraisers in this country are white men. Those are people who come out and set the value of your house. They tell you what your house is worth, what you can borrow against it, and what you can sell it for. 95% of them don't live in West End or in Bellevue Heights or in Bellwood. So they don't value our property the way that it ought to be valued. So if you pick up a house in Bellwood and Fairfield and you put it in Mountain Brook, they're gonna say it's worth $200,000 over here. They're gonna say it's worth $2 million over there. That's why those boards are absolutely essential to ensure that we have some opportunities now to get some diversity of experience and persuasion and perspective on those boards and agents. It is absolutely an essential thing that we do
10
that.
seconds.
Because these board, listen, people say I don't do politics. Well, if you don't do politics, politics won't do you.
Yes.
We better make sure that we keep an eye on those boards and agents.
Mr. Woodson.
Representation on every board and every whatever it is, it's important that your voice is heard. I'm concerned about that, but I tell you what I'm more concerned about. I'm more concerned about the people that were in Southtown housing projects that were pushed out towards Center Point and depopulating the city. I'm concerned as I don't know what about the folks that are in Smithfield who are going to be dislocated for this redevelopment, and they're going to keep a small percentage of the seniors over there. And we got all these land bank properties and all of that. Those are really my concerns, right? So representation across the board, we need our voices, but I'm saying I want to make sure that I get the opportunity to be the voice for people that live in our community, that's their home, even though it's the projects. That's their home, that's their community. Babysitters, grandmamas, all of that. How do we keep communities intact?
10 seconds.
A community is not transformed until the people are transformed. You don't just throw people out like trash. It's a community.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question, gentleman right there, 30 seconds for the question.
My question is this.
Where you live, brother?
I live in Smithfield, on Grad you mentioned. I live in Smithfield. I went down to vote for you Brother Datcher. I didn't know that I don't live in District 52 because they changed the district
Lines, yes, sir.
Yeah, so often. But I did find out they were open for the people who would absentee vote on the second floor.
10 seconds.
My question is this. We had a senator who was over there, United States Banking and Finance Committee, Shell, right here in Jefferson County. His county has the biggest financial bankruptcy in the history of the United States. Brother, they're missing policy all the time. We have people sitting at the table, blacks sitting at the table. And that brother mentioned how they're going to remove us from certain boards. This brother mentioned about what they tell us one thing, and you go down and you find out it's something else. Well, the people should have, they should be able to do things they want to do without going through so-called leadership. Policy is very important. We have blacks sitting on boards, but they don't create no policy. They don't create policy at all. How do we get around not only the violations of our civil rights? There's a qualitative difference between human rights and civil rights.
Let me answer that
These
question.
people violate our human rights.
Let me answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go first this time.
Human rights too.
Listen, we can't change the structure of government every time. What we can change is people. We get the wrong people in, they're going to abuse the powers, right? And that's the way that is. And so we got to have people. We got to ask the question, when they move you out of the district, why did they move you out of the district? Because what it did, it created a larger, strong white district with the current guy that's in there that's over the city council. But it also put it over there to where it would be favorable, more favorable, with a city councilor who orchestrated the Southtown deal. Understand that these folks, it's not chess, it's check. It's not, some stuff is just wickedness. They got folks over here who displaced the people and got paid. Then they put the girl over here into the city council. She toted the water. She asked questions and looked at stuff about going to neighborhood housing services. Now she's over there, and they're all in on it. And I'm just going to tell you, they're all in on it, brother. That's why we got to make sure we get the right people in office that represent not only your voice, but your interest.
That's right.
So now, we ain't doing that. Southtown, I'm glad Sybil walked back in. We used to go see the resident leader of that community and take her to lunch once a month. And I remember we were at Lena's and we bought her a watermelon from that guy who sells them right there on the back of his truck. And he was selling them, it was late in the day, he was selling them for like 2 for $16, so I got 4. And we took one into her house. And she was embarrassed for me to go inside her house in Southtown. Because she said, although they hired pest control, she paid for her own pest control. Because she said she knew as soon as we walked in there, the roaches would be coming out. Southtown had been there for almost 100 years, and the roaches and insects were embedded in those walls. My mama, I wouldn't let my mama live there, and I didn't let her live there. So we're doing the same thing in Southtown. Ealerton Village was built in 1938. Smithfield at the court in 42.
10 seconds.
I'm not letting our folks live on slave ships on land under my watch. Because I live in the projects, and it should be a springboard for us to do better and to live better. Right now in Smithfield, and I apologize for this, we're doing a build first model. We're doing 150 units, and the JCCO building is going to be a intergenerational senior building and a daycare. We bought 11 acres around Parker High School. We're going to build 400 units there. We're going to build before we tear down a single brick in Smithfield Court. We're going to build new housing.
Time.
Well, since he had, can I just have my little 10
I'll give
second?
you 5 seconds.
My little 10-second rebuttal. And it's this right here. The folks in Southtown were in the project because they took their property and built a hospital. They took their whole neighborhood. That's how they ended up in Southtown. Cooper Green is there. UAB is green and gold because that's what Oldman High School was. They didn't just say, we going through the project so we ain't got nothing to do. They took the land.
Time. Okay, last question from the audience. Right there, our coin tosser.
Absolutely. I'm James Parker. I stay on Beacon Crest Circle, so I am in the district.
You are.
I am Mr. Woodson, and my question is directly for you. So I think everybody in this room is kind of familiar with how a campaign goes, you know, whether that's phone banking, whether that's knocking on door to door, whether that's on social media now, of course, with the times that we live in. So everybody's pretty familiar with how to run a campaign. So Mr. Woodson, like I've seen you at these debates, but I haven't seen you at my doorstep, and that kind of concerns me. So, and not just with Mr. Datcher, even other candidates before the runoff election, I've seen them, I've talked to them, I've voiced my concerns for my district that I live in. They've been to my door. The other night, I walked up and came home from a long day, and Mr. Datcher's thing, his pamphlet was at my doorstep, which means either he came by or somebody on his team came by. And that really means a lot to me, because how can you go to Montgomery and voice my concerns of our district and you haven't talked to me? So my question is, what efforts have you taken to hear the concerns from the constituents of District 52? Where is your data coming from? Did you and your team actively phone bank and go door to door? And is there a formal way that I can submit my concerns to you?
There it is. frankwoodson.com. electfrankwoodson.com. You can submit your concerns there. And I'll tell you this, we've reached out to every single address in this district, be it knocking on doors, be it canvassing, be it phone banking, be it mailers being sent. We've done that. And are we 100%? I can't say that we are, but I can set up a strategy to do good business. And we've set up a strategy to do good business to make sure my voice is heard. You saw my signs all the way up and down Valley Avenue. You saw them there. You know I had been there. And I've lived in those apartments, and I've knocked on doors. I didn't get the opportunity to meet you, but I look forward to it afterwards.
So I plan to wrap up. I see we still have some hands. I'll leave it up to the candidates. Do you want to answer one more question? One more?
I actually have other places too.
Let's do them all.
I'm fine with wrapping right now.
Yeah, I actually have other promises to other people I'd be other places.
Okay. 10 more minutes. We got. We'll take one more question, then final closing statement. All right, the gentleman in the black in the corner. Thank you. Last question. 30 seconds.
Datcher Cunningham, Hampton Heights Drive. I do live in the district. And I really want to piggyback off of what this previous constituent said about getting the proper data. My concern and issue is accountability. Oftentimes, we only hear from politicians come election time. You serve 4 years, and about 9 months out, you come begging for some money or saying what you're going to do, or maybe what you have done. I am challenging whichever whoever is elected, and I wish either one of you the best. I would like to see accountability on a monthly or at the very least a quarterly basis. If you can't take the time to come talk to me while the stuff is going on, because of course in Montgomery it just don't start when the legislature starts. The work is going on even if you're not there. But if you don't have time for me as a constituent, I don't have time for you when it's time to make that vote. I don't have time to come in my pocket and give you money out my pocket. I am a lifelong resident of Birmingham and retired employee of Birmingham, and I love the city and I care about it. Politicians care about it when it's election time. But oftentimes we don't hear about you before the end. How can we have that accountability on the very least a quarterly basis, if not a monthly basis?
I'm a first-time candidate. Never run for office before. I didn't expect to do it this time. It took some special circumstances. But I'm incredibly proud to be here. I'm thankful for all of you for coming and all the great questions. That's one of them. You're right. The work don't start when the session begins. But I promise you this: if I'm fortunate to be elected, you'll see me at neighborhood meetings because I already live in the neighborhood. I promise you this as well. Generally, the session works Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Legislators meet Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the weeks during the session. You will hear from me on social media and on radio stations on the Monday before that week on what's going to happen, what we think will happen, and on Friday on what actually happened every week of the session. That is a guarantee that you will get from me. You will have my phone number. Everybody else got it, so I can give it to you too.
Talking about communication. So work-wise, my job full-time is serving our community. When I left corporate, that's what I do. I work full-time on our community finding solutions. I've started that Frank Fridays and on Gary Richardson, and that's gone real well. People just appreciate honest conversation. But we can do better. I'm in the process of building a website, housedistrict52.org.
All right.
And in that, you'll be able to go on there and see what's happening in those areas, to see how I plan on spending the money and the resources that I have access to make sure that we as black folks do what we challenge white folks to do, and to be equitable in the spending of our money. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to put all the money in Fairfield or Birmingham because they need it. Whatever the percentages are, that's the money we're going to put in Mountain Brook. That's the money we're going to put in Homewood. That's the money we're going to put in Birmingham and Fairfield. We're going to be equitable what we ask for. We can do this. This isn't rocket science. If we really want to be open, we can. I commit to being open to you and to others to let you know what's happening.
All right, that wraps up our questions from our audience. I'm so sorry, y'all. I wish I could ask all the questions, but we're almost at 11 o'clock. So I would like to have closing statements, and we will give you 1 minute each. We'll start with Mr. Woodson.
You give me what?
1 minute. Or you have 30 seconds if you need to hurry up and get out of here.
Oh.
I'm willing to give you 1 minute, though.
Thank you. I just want to say thank each of you all for hearing this out. Kelvin said something earlier. There are a lot of things that we agree upon, I would say. This is decency and people and caring for. Our differences in how some of the strategies in getting there, or some of our points that we're passionate about this or that as priorities from talking to people across the country. I'm offering my services because I have the most experience, I would say, in business. I've run 4 multi-million-dollar companies. The most experience at working in Montgomery as far as across the aisle with Republicans and the like. And then I would say that I probably spent more time on the ground than anybody in our community over the last 20 years of going into communities and finding solutions and the like.
10 seconds.
I promise you I'll never embarrass you. I'll never be in a scandal. I'll never be a part of those things that have caused us hurt and pain before. I've got differences with some of you all and how we got there or where we traveled from. but I'm fiercely loyal to mayors because I work with more than 40 mayors every year, just behind the scenes. And so I have been loyal to mayors. And we've had differences because of that sometimes, some of you. But that's who I am. I work with leaders. I honor leaders. I support leaders. And I want your vote. I've done a lot, but I can't do this without you. I'm asking for your vote. Remember me on July the 16th.
Mr. Datcher.
First, I'm thankful again, as Frank said, to you all for being here, for remaining interested and excited about the voting process. It's not hard being a candidate. It's not easy being a candidate. Again, it was my first time, so I've learned a lot of things. So I'm incredibly grateful to the other 5 that started this journey with Frank and I. I want to congratulate Frank for still being here. And I can also certify this is something that Frank said, because I was there. Frank did tremendous things during the pandemic. You know how I know? I pulled my truck up in line to pick up some boxes for him. I saw also Frank sent the truck down to Sardis, where we gave out food during the pandemic. So I want to congratulate him on that as well. I'm serving because there's one rule in our family. Every generation does better than the next. We own the largest black-owned family farm in Alabama, in Shelby County. And that farm was started because my ancestors bought it from their slave masters.
Kentucky, yeah.
I mentioned my grandmother cleaned white folks' houses in Cahaba Heights and Mount Brooks. She finished with a 6th grade education. She sacrificed that for my mom, who raised 5 kids. She went to 2-year college, but she sacrificed for us. She didn't get to go to 4-year college, but she put 5 kids to 4-year colleges by herself. And I know now that I have a great life. God has been good to me.
Amen.
And so I can just stop right now and just say, I got mine. But I know this generation, and not just my children, but all of our children's generation, deserve to do better. And I am here for it.
Thank you. Can we get our candidates? The committee to save Jefferson County, what's happening in Birmingham, Carmine Communications, and don't forget to vote! Yeah, vote!